Welcome to Ring of Fire.
I'm Alex Barr, doula and educator.
And I'm Emmy the Birth Wizard.
This is where we talk about the tough moments of birth work
and help you transition into fire starters.
I'll let you go first.
I was going to go first, but Alex had to talk first. Hi, I'm Emmy, the Birth Wizard, who's here with Ring of Fire, and I'm super stoked because it's watching a movie.
Movie night. I'm Alex Barr, doula cater. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
And, I'm super excited about this movie.
Me too.
It made such a ruckus in the spheres. When I saw the trailer, a ton of doula groups were talking about it. And
Which I'm so fascinated because I saw a trailer of it. I didn't see anybody talking about it or know anybody else that knew it was even existed.
Oh, it was all over a particular education, training platform doula groups.
Fair.
And what was interesting about it was how many people... Should I introduce the movie and what it's about?
Yes, let's do that. So it's a movie called Doula. It just came out, right?
Yeah, it came out in June of 2022. And I'll give the little, synopsis. It's called Doula. And after dating a matter of months, 30-something Deb and Silvio are expecting their first child. When their elderly midwife passes away suddenly, Silvio makes a hasty decision to hire Penka's son, Sasha, as their live-in doula. And it's essentially the chaos that ensues while planning for your first pregnancy, and maybe this doula helps or not, because that's left as a question mark, at least in the trailers.
Yeah.
And I do know that this is, Chris Pine's, big thing, because he produced the movie and all sorts of stuff, so a fairly big name, but there was a lot of people who, I saw reacting to it of this isn't what we do, and trying to make it very literal, and then I think about a movie based off of literally what doulas do and how I wouldn't watch it, honestly.
It would probably be pretty boring.
Yeah. We don't have an interesting job, guys, in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Because we're support people, and it's about our stories.
We're not the main characters.
No, we're not.
We're the side characters. We're the supporting
Guys,
characters.
I want you to stop having main character energy. Have some side character energy, please.
Because you really are. You're just waiting for the main character to need you.
New sticker. New sticker and t-shirt will be side character energy. And the reality, so that's what it's about. And I was excited to see it just because, it's neat seeing a man be a doula.
Yeah.
It's neat, the idea of, exploring this dynamic of a couple that barely knows each other that's having a baby. I've been at births like that. It's trippy.
Yeah.
Those are trippy. I had one couple, I'll tell this story very quickly. They met at their mailbox during the pandemic. Because they lived in an apartment complex, and they both had just moved to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so they went on Zoom dates for a while, and then ended up moving in together during the pandemic and got pregnant immediately. So they had only been together
they need a movie.
6 to 7 months together before they got pregnant, and they hired us.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful, cute, couple where I was this doesn't feel real.
We're in a movie right now.
Right. The other part being so give it to me. You guys don't like everything about each other, right?
Are you sure?
Right. But yeah, so witnessing couples like that where they barely know each other is so different.
Witnessing couples in general, I think, is one of the fascinating things about our job, is witnessing different dynamics in relationships.
I've had to check my biases on that one, because I have preferred dynamics over other people's dynamics, and I'll be that was a shitty couple. They're not even actually in love, I bet.
I'm excited. I love indie movies, little cute indie movies like this a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's directed by a woman. And the main actress,
Is from Pretty Little Liars.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I can't see anyone else here where I've got to, like, shout them out. Well, Ally McKay is a longtime comedian, and then Chris Pine is in the movie.
Who is Chris Pine?
Chris Pine was in Star Trek as Captain Kirk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
He's one of the Chris's of Hollywood.
I knew he was a Chris because I
Yeah.
remember an SNL sketch about how
He's also fully
one of
tied
the
up in
Chris's.
all that, like, Don't Worry, Darling drama right now.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I'll stop.
Okay, we'll discuss later. That's another movie to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what the movie is. So the thing that I did look up were some reviews.
Yeah.
And it's called heartwarming and also, like, cheesy. It's
Yeah.
called one person said that it was a very raw look at a new couple having a baby, which I thought was, like, a very kind way of putting it.
Yeah.
And whatever the movie's intentions, one is certain that the main actress is utterly convincing as a woman dealing with mood swings, self-doubt, and fears, while also displaying courage, self-assurance, and forgiveness.
Oh, that's a good review.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about, are there other times you've seen doulas shown in media?
I've seen doula shown in one piece of media
Yeah.
that I can think of, but it was
I can only think of one too.
that was, like, based on doulas. Like, it was an educational kind of thing that PBS put on. So it was talking about, in particular, this agency that specialized in deafness.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about the deaf community in New York and pregnancy and being deaf while pregnant.
Yeah.
So the doulas appeared in that, so I counted, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really about the doulas in particular. It was about deafness and pregnancy.
Because that's why I'm interested to see this, because I feel like it's never really
Allegedly, there's
shown?
a sequence in the new Fuller House show where there's a postpartum doula who's
cute.
awful.
Oh.
Like, gives all the worst advice and is very, like, judgmental and, like, not really showcasing.
The opposite of what good postpartum doulas do.
Yeah, and so I know there's that one as, like, an example that I can think of, but I can't think of many others. Which also says a lot about where we are. Like, then you have to write another character into your show or, like, sequence
and
potentially.
It truly fully could be just like what you said, that it would be kind of boring.
You're supposed to be a yes and person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I'm thinking of, how do you make that interesting? The only time I hear it brought up is, like, in the, like, hippy dippy people have doulas type of, right? Like, I hear that mentioned here and there, you know, but never, like, as, like, a real character or understanding of what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's plenty of examples.
Yeah.
I just don't know them.
I haven't seen them.
Well, you guys are listening to this, which means you're probably following us on Instagram, which means you saw us tell you, go join our Discord, so that way you could watch it with us.
Yeah, so
we fully streamed it.
Exactly. So if you go to our Discord, there should be a link to watch the whole movie and hear our commentary on it as we go.
But what we're going to do is I'm going to clap, and when you hear the clap come back, we'll already have watched it, and we're going to give our thoughts at the end.
Do we want to predict what we think, how we're going to rate this movie? So we've come up with a rating system.
Yes.
Where instead of, like, 5 stars for a really great movie, it's going to be 10 centimeters.
Correct. 10 centimeters. And 0 is, like, why do we even try?
Go
I
home.
literally need an induction for me to go home.
Why did you get a cervical exam this early?
Right. Go back to the drawing board.
Yes.
So I think, look, there's themes in this that I know that I enjoy, so I'm going to probably give myself saying I'm probably going to enjoy this at a 7 centimeters.
That was what it was going to be.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like little cute movies like this.
Yeah, I enjoy indie flicks. I enjoy flicks that explore human existence and, like, all the messiness of it.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling I'm gonna like it. One of my favorite movies of all time is Little Miss Sunshine. So this is giving me Little Miss Sunshine vibes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. I'm hopeful.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. 3, 2, 1.
We're back. We watched the movie.
Ready? We did it. We
Time
watched
warp.
it.
We watched it. It was cute.
It was cute.
The sexual undertones were a little too much for me in this movie. I wanted it to be cuter and less. Are they gonna fuck? Right.
I think that's like an inherent issue with all of Hollywood, though, of like male, nice to woman, must have sexual
I
energy.
hate it.
Here's some things that I'll say.
We should
I'll
probably
go with
closer.
the first ones of the things that it didn't represent of doulas well. One, it's not usual for a doula to live with you.
Yeah.
But
I so would do that.
I think it's cool.
I think that would be like the coolest thing.
That's really cool. I liked how they depict his services, essentially.
Yeah.
As this like all-encompassing thing. The other thing that's not normal is like how he handled himself in certain situations, and it does make more sense because you picked it up during it. Which, if you guys want to watch this whole thing with us, it'll be on our Discord.
Yes.
But
So spoilers coming.
right, it's alluded that he's a lay midwife.
Yes.
Which
Which
is
if
weird.
people don't know, that is
Like a trained midwife, but through ancestral practices. But even then, he went to midwifery school, so I wouldn't necessarily call him a lay midwife.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's not like a licensed midwife, I guess
Right.
would be the...
but the other issue with him is when the birth actually happens, he doesn't do any of the parts. He ends up waking up the friend to do all of it.
Yeah.
So he still stayed within his doula scope, which, like,
Yeah.
that's a choice when you went to fucking midwifery school.
And you could check someone's dilation, like...
Yeah. It's odd. So...
What was he gonna do if she wasn't there?
Yeah.
So if you didn't watch the movie and you just want a little synopsis, he moves in with her. He, the doula does. He's hired by her partner
Without her consent.
without her consent, and we slowly watch her like kind of come into her own.
Yes. And I felt that was a really good representation, honestly, of a lot of my clients and how it feels when I'm with them.
Yeah.
I think that was a really good representation. A lot of times...
It's pretty cool to witness that too.
Yeah, it is. And it's even cooler when, like, you reach the other side and you guys have turned, like, there's this bond, and I wouldn't even call it friendship. It's a little different than that.
Yeah.
But truly seeing someone step into themselves is really cool.
It's cool.
And she does a lot of that all over this movie.
I get really excited to see clients, like, speak up for themselves, make decisions that I know that they wanted to make.
Yeah.
But were afraid to, and, you know, just even, like, being excited or where before they were anxious or before they were nervous kind of thing is always so cool to see.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting that she was literally weighing unassisted home birth and hospital birth. I mean,
No
those,
in between.
that was a big thing for me throughout the
Mhm.
film. I was like, I mean, I'm sure there's it looks like you guys are in fucking San Francisco. You can't tell me there's another midwife in San Francisco.
There's also, I truly felt like it was, I really liked how they depicted her experience.
Yes.
And her feelings and, like, nerves about pregnancy.
That review at the beginning is very truthful of her performance.
Yeah.
You really do believe her all the way through it.
I got chills at some points.
Yeah.
And, like, totally what it feels like.
Yeah.
Her being worried about that she won't be able to love her kid. The issues with her own mom. Like, all of that stuff was so...
Her talking about not being a person anymore, I think, was so big. And that's where I think doulas can make the biggest impact, is reminding people of their personhood during pregnancy.
I try to make sure that I'm always leading with the birther.
Yeah.
And asking about how they're doing.
Yes.
Because specifically, I remember how often people ask me about the baby instead of myself.
Yes.
And it sucked, and I felt that I was slowly disappearing when I was pregnant.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I try to avoid asking about baby.
Same. Because they'll tell you if there's an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really try to put the focus on the birther.
The other thing that I found interesting in the film is how they paced her coming to terms with herself.
Yeah.
So that first minutes of, I'm afraid I'm going to be left out. And then the next thing was the insecurity she had in the relationship. And then finally, it wasn't how people would perceive her or forget her. It wasn't about the closest relationship. It was finally about her own insecurity. Yeah. So it was neat seeing her go those levels of the fear.
Yeah. I still am so, which we talked about it a bit, like, I don't know what the message these writers are trying to send about doulas or crunchy people or home births or midwives.
Like I said, they fully
confusing.
Fully made the art people just shibari people, which is a Japanese art form technically of rope tying, but it was fully just a sex party.
Yeah,
that's what we were at, and I don't think that it's purposeful. I think it's just to like do the hyperbolic.
Yeah. Right?
But it was interesting seeing that they do put the holistic hippies in both light just as much. Like, of them being like idiots while also being like the most intelligent people in the room, leading them through, right?
Which is fairly accurate, right?
Yeah. It's
right.
just, it was a little odd because it was so hyperbolic on both sides.
Yeah.
Right?
You're like, wait, what are you saying?
What's the commentary?
But I did find it interesting, the partners' same journey.
Yes.
That was paralleling her own.
Yeah.
Like, his, like, understanding of, like, why he wanted a home birth, why he was scared, what had happened with his first birth, like, all of those coming to terms with it. Fascinating.
That dude's got some major birth trauma after this one, too.
Oh, yeah.
That dude needs to go to some therapy.
Everybody needs to go to some therapy.
For sure. But that dude in particular, my guy Silvio's got to do some work.
And I hate that guy, but I did appreciate some of the character development.
I really appreciated the character development, especially going from the beginning where he could not advocate for himself at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that he didn't have an issue with this kid coming to live with them or anything.
Yeah.
He just had a hard time being like, can you make it easy for the baby to be arriving? And all that was the problem, right?
Yeah.
He didn't really want to keep them apart because he never mentioned that he was upset that they had talked, even.
Yeah.
The kid and her.
Yeah.
It just was like, I got a sense that he didn't really know her very well, and so they were figuring each other out.
Yeah, over the time. Which is what you were saying, that you felt like the doula was starting arguments and stirring the pot so they would finally have the arguments.
Yeah. That's really how I felt.
Yeah.
That's why he left it ambiguous with, like, I feel like the doctor's a cutter, right?
Yeah.
He never said not to have a hospital birth. He never said...
And he told her, I'm here for whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
But he never said, like, it has to be a home birth.
Yeah.
And that guy totally took it as, don't like the doctor, has to be home birth.
Yeah.
And that's when he corrected him again of, like, you have
I never said that.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to, like, follow her lead.
Yeah. And she said eventually, like, you have to listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cute. It was,
It's not, it wasn't Little Miss Sunshine levels.
No.
But it was good.
Yeah. I would so love to hear, like, somebody who has no idea about birth work to watch this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And what they got from it, right? Because I'm very curious, like, we're watching it through this lens of, like, that we know that's not super accurate about what doulas do, right? There's a lot of lines that were crossed. We're not puppeteering relationships and trying to get people to have fights.
You don't do that? I do make people have conversations with me that are uncomfortable.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think that's a more cinematic way of doing it, rather than the prenatal of, like, hey guys, I know we don't want to talk about cesareans or birth trauma or how your prior birth went, or like, I know you guys don't want to talk about that, but here I am. Is mother-in-law invited? Why not? Because I need to know those things so I can.
Even postpartum plans bring up a lot of conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in a way, it was showing what we do.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a more cinematic
It's a movie
version.
Yeah.
But in a way, it was showing. I think the most powerful scene to me was her getting out of the hospital and her first avocation of like, no, I don't want to do PIT. And it's this subtle look between her and the doula.
Mm-hmm. Of like, I need some time.
Right.
Yeah.
And what a great way of doing that, and then like checking out.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, of any of the scenes, the perfect like doula scene moment, right?
Yeah.
He didn't say anything. He just stood there, and she glanced over at him, and he glanced back with enough like of that communication back and forth where she felt empowered in that moment. That's the only time I'll use that word, because I fucking hate when people are like, I'm here to empower you. Like, no, I'm not.
I think it happens. I think we do empower people, whatever, but it is a weird word to use. And it is overused at this point, right? What is your issue with empowered? Like,
I think it's because I feel more like it's crowd bravery than it's empowering, right?
It's what?
Crowd bravery. So they finally, like, do you know the term crowd bravery?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. It's when you're willing to do something because you got a bunch of eyes on you and no one's going to say anything about it. So you get crowd brave. Like, you're with all your friends, so you're willing to be a little bit louder or kookier. You're like, or sometimes it'll be described of kids where they're like, oh, mom's around all of her mom friends. I'm going to act up bigger.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to do anything in front of these people. So in a
See,
way,
I don't know if I see that in my clients.
in a way, I find with my clients, me being in the room, they feel a little bit more crowd brave to be like, oh, this person's got my back. So if I say something, there's going to be another person to back me up when I say it. So that's why I don't love it, because empowered to me is this internalized work, right?
Well, and that's why I feel like it is accurate in some ways, right? I'm giving you the tools, I'm giving you the information, I'm giving you I'm reminding you that you are driving the car, right? Like I'm bringing that to your attention, that you're driving and this is your responsibility and you get to make these choices. And I fully see people make like the choices that they wanted to make but maybe were afraid to, or say some of the things that they weren't going to say before.
And I think the differentiation I'm making is like, empower is like beyond me being there. So if the person's doing it even when I'm not in the room, even when like we haven't had the phone calls, even that's when I know I've empowered someone.
Got you.
But if I'm in the room and you're doing it because I'm here,
Yeah.
I've not empowered you. You're just feeling confident because you know your guard dog is here.
Yeah.
That's different to me. So if I get the phone call of like after we had the conversation, like, I don't know, you don't actually have to induce at 41 weeks. Here's some data. And they're like, all right, let me go talk to my doc, because we've all had those moments. And they call back saying, yeah, I'm going to go for the induction, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I wonder if I was in that room, would they have chosen different? Because I've had plenty where they didn't, and once I'm there, it's a totally different person. Versus I've had ones, and those are the ones that I'll say I've empowered, where it's the same conversation. They go and talk to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, so we pushed it off by 2 weeks, right? Or like they did negotiations without me being in that space to help bolster.
Yeah.
Right? Then I actually empowered them.
Yeah.
Then they made the decision.
If they can do it without you, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to think about it, yeah.
That's my thought process, though, because my hope is that as a birth doula, I'm affecting their postpartum and their parenting journey.
Yeah.
And if I can't get them to the point where they're making those decisions without me being in the room, I haven't done my job. Because the next visit they're doing after birth is a pediatrician.
Yeah.
And if I haven't taught them the tools of like brain and avocation,
so you're saying that you are empowering, or that's your goal, but it's not something that's always happening.
No,
got it.
It's not.
Yeah,
I try, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not something. It is something internal. It's not something that you can like teach people
right
overnight or quickly, right? Like But we've talked about this before. Pregnancy and birth is that first step to learning, like, how to speak up and advocate. Because you're going to have to do that for your kids.
Yeah, for sure. I do think another part is, I was just seeing if anyone's on. I think the other part of this film that I really enjoyed was those quiet moments in the movie. Also, I found that the main character was pretty funny, and how she handled pregnancy.
Loved it.
Felt very much how I handled pregnancy.
Same.
And I enjoyed a lot of bits of this movie.
Yeah.
There was just a lot where I was like,
That's
so
weird.
we were at 6 centimeters, now we're at 7, and now we're pushing, but now we're not pushing anymore.
We're pushing, then we stopped because we were pooping, and then we stopped, and then...
Yeah, and then we maybe hemorrhaged, but there was so little blood in that pool that...
And it happened immediately after...
birth, which that y'all, that was the tiniest cloud.
It was like kind of clear water with a little blood in it.
Right, like the tiniest.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't want to put it on there because of like, maybe for rating reasons, like PG-13 versus R.
But they should have said something. They don't even reveal why she was in the hospital. But I did like the, like, I'm ashamed that I did all that and ended back in the hospital. And then for her to say, well, or for them to be like, no, you did exactly what you're supposed to.
I did find it a sweet moment when she found out she had a girl.
Yeah.
Because I sensed when they did that gender thing that she was disappointed. That she had gender disappointment, which is like a thing I don't want to even get into right now. I won't. But I did find it interesting because a lot of the film was her talking about her issues with her mom. So maybe she felt this need for a daughter.
Yeah.
Not a son. So I'm curious about why they chose the like, oops, not actual gender.
Yeah.
Maybe to underline that the doula was right for not liking this provider.
That could be it too. Yeah.
He's such an idiot that he couldn't tell the difference between a penis and a vagina. That's the only reason I can think of for them to change the gender like that, to try and confirm that this doc was an idiot.
I just wonder if people think that happens often. Right? That's just something that happens.
Maybe. I'm just trying to think.
But they gave the doctor so few, like, lines for us to even give an idea of, like,
and by the way,
kind of
let's talk about this dog. He was not a bad dog. I would have been mad about this guy.
He had, like, 4 lines, though.
But, like, his things each time were like, all right, I'll go, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, you go make your decisions. Like, at no point is he doing the, like, we have to, like, have the... Because I've seen those conversations and how they go, and that's not what they depicted.
No. Because she did just leave, and then the first time it was like, I'll let you know. Yeah. And then the second time...
He followed her out, which honestly, I don't know how she left without seeing him before leaving, but followed her out, basically said, I don't recommend this, and she's like, thanks, bye, and he wasn't like...
Yeah.
And I do think it's fair
They did throw in the thing where he was like, well, let's get you on some Pitocin.
Right.
Didn't ask the question, was basically like, you want to get home with that baby.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't feel like that's... what they were setting him up for was egregious, right? Like, that he has small windows, or like that he's cutty, or any... None of that was...
Well, that's what I was trying to say. I'm like, what is the message here?
Yeah.
What are you telling me with this?
Maybe it's the
story,
issue that
right?
you and I are thinking of this too much like doulas.
Yeah.
Because the premise of the film is really about making your own life decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we just go off of that, of the doctor's pushing for a hospital birth, and the husband's, or the partner is pushing for a home birth, and it's about you and what you want to choose.
And I feel like that was ultimately what she had to choose, what she wanted in both scenarios. To go to the hospital, to go home, right? Like, she really got to make those decisions finally for herself.
And maybe that's
to even decide what the gender of the baby was. And, like, that kind of stuff early on. Like, was starting to make decisions for herself rather than just listening to...
Right. And maybe that's what we're supposed to take away from that interaction. It's like, he's not asking her things. He's not even figuring out her name. He's just deciding for her.
And saying
no
the
different
wrong
than
name and stuff like that.
Yeah, no different than Sylvia.
It fully seems like it's written by someone who has some bit of knowledge. Because to throw in the like, yeah, let's get you started on Pitocin, and for that to be the issue that sends her, that makes her leave and go home, like you have to have some understanding of birth work to understand that. I don't feel like a layman's person would be like, yeah, Pitocin bad.
But the other part is like, how many doula accounts did he follow, because it was a man who wrote it.
Yeah.
He followed during the writing of this. Because let me tell you, one more fucking post about Pitocin, I'm gonna rip out my goddamn hair. But
because it's not the worst, right? But it is not something that people know a lot about.
Right.
So maybe even a person watching that would be like, why didn't you say yes to that?
Right.
Right.
So it could be that during the preparation, and it makes sense actually if we think about it. We think about it through the lens of man who doesn't know a ton about doulas.
Mm-hmm.
Follows a bunch of doula accounts. This sounds like the shit that's posted on doula.
Done some basic research, yeah.
Exactly. So.
Because, yeah, that's fair.
And that's what I'm going to take away from that. It's not that the person actually knows anything about birth work or.
That's why I'm like, there's a little knowledge there. What did they expect like normal people to get from that?
I get fully drive by, which is fine. What I will say is like it embodies the spirit of a doula.
Yeah.
Silas what was the name of the doula?
Sasha.
Yeah. Silvio, Sasha. So I went with Silas. Sasha, I think, captures a lot of the spirit of a doula. I think that he did a really good job of that whole like, do you know what doula means? Like, and he literally did it at each different point. And he did a really good job of showcasing it. There's other issues I have, but it's whatever.
It's a movie,
right?
Yeah,
but
the energy I think was right.
It was
right of what a doula is and what a doula embodies.
Yeah,
like you said.
I'm glad that they kept some lightness with it. That it wasn't all like the hippy dippy like spiritualism. They had him making jokes with her. They had him like. That's honestly my favorite part, is making jokes during labor with my clients, because that's what they're enjoying. We're all like laughing together and stuff. And that's kind of what you got during the labor scene, is him making jokes with her and picking up on her energy and what she needed. So
and that like calm presence too.
Yeah, he was calm presence a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the fucking snow cones. I could so see myself being that type, like, oh, I guess we got all in arguments. I'm gonna go get sugar. Fill people's tummy.
Because I do feel like in another life I would be like a life coach.
Yeah.
I would totally move in with people and help them get their shit together.
Yeah.
I would totally move in and be a doula for someone for a couple months.
And again, they couldn't figure out her due window or anything else. Because she was 6 weeks, and then it was...
I think we transported. It was 6 weeks to the window.
Uh-huh.
And then I think that was time, passed.
Got it.
And then she was hitting her window.
So she was...
That had to have been 38 weeks. Maybe it was 40. Maybe they were assuming it was 40. Because they said... Because there's no way.
No.
There's no way.
So
maybe the, quote, window was 40 weeks.
Yeah.
And
that's why I think it was a drive-by information thing.
I know a little bit of information. Yeah, I've done a little bit of research for this movie.
Because a window, we all traditionally know, is 38 to 42.
If they would just had removed the sexual tension between the doula and her, I would have been happy with this movie.
Yeah.
That was fucking weird.
It was. And I think...
I would have been, like, very happy with this movie if they had removed that part.
You know, I agree with you, because I would understand... Honestly, you could have just moved it, right?
Yeah.
If you had moved that scene, and, like, switched it with the dancing scene, out with that one...
Like a little earlier.
Made it earlier, then it would make more sense why the boyfriend got all jealous and all of that, even though Sasha would have been like, that's a part of my job. Like, oxytocin is how we get a baby out.
Yeah.
And I know you guys aren't having sex because life, so I'm taking care of it. That's literally what it's my job. Like, then it would have been a little bit less weird. It still would have been fully weird, but it would have been a little less weird within the universe that is being built.
That's being built here. Where everybody was just totally cool with everything that was happening.
Man, there was so many chill vibes in this movie. Everyone was like, down.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Unassisted birth. Like, love it. I know people who are having unassisted births are not getting that much positive support from their friends and family.
I would love that. Also, like, your two gay friends asking you to be a surrogate while you're very, very pregnant. Everyone's cool with that question. Yeah. While we're at the baby shower, we're celebrating me, but sure, let's ask me to get pregnant again.
Fuck you. That would be my absolute, like, go away.
We're totally cool with people just moving in with us. We're totally cool with just being like, I guess this stepkid can come live with us now. We had
the midwife was living in a tent. Right. We've been together for 3 weeks.
It's totally cool that you got high on shrooms at a fucking sex party and came back, and now I guess we're a thing again.
I guess we're okay. Like, we've healed all wounds. We've healed all wounds.
Yes, I think.
Okay, what's your new rating?
I would put it at a 6 out of 10. 6 centimeters. I would put it at 6 centimeters.
I was gonna say 5 centimeters.
Yeah. Yeah. We're that. I think that's a fair place. It's again, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I watched it with my doula friend. Because watching this with my husband or anyone else, like even by myself, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much. Yeah. Right? But you guys tell us.
What did you think?
What did you think? Did you have any questions? I mean, you fully watched it on our Discord, I'm sure. Through that file.
You probably wouldn't still be listening because there's no way.
No, but
you understood anything we just said if you haven't seen that movie.
Please come hang out on our Discord. We'll have a section just dedicated to this one. Yeah. There'll be a thread dedicated to it. Tell us how many centimeters you give it.
I love that rating system.
And please tell us if there's other movies you guys would want us to watch.
Yeah. Or shows or episodes or...
Yeah, truly. Let's do it. I think this is fun.
I think it's so fun. I love it.
It's something that I would love to keep doing. So, until next time, I'm Emmy the Birth Wizard.
I'm Alex Bard, doula and educator. Bye!